Not yet. It says streaming live, but yeah.
I guess we are live then. Good to see you virtually.
Yeah, yeah. Everything is happening virtually now, right?
No.
Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Bangalore, and
Me too.
so excited to be here.
Same here. Yeah. We'll just wait for the second speaker to come in. So you are a writer, coffee entrepreneur. What does coffee entrepreneur mean?
Yeah, so I've been in the process of reviving a coffee plantation, family coffee plantation.
Okay.
And yeah, so as part of that, basically looking into bringing the plantation back to its old glory. And yeah, trying to basically supply single origin coffee in Bangalore.
Oh. So what's your distribution? I think I'll move my background. I set it up. It didn't work. So I'll just move to
Sure.
so that the background is at least blank. Here we are. I'll just pick up my water bottle and yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I am. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's still at an early stage. So the idea is to focus more on sustaining the plantation in terms of the distribution. So currently it's only in Bangalore and only in specific areas. It's called Wild Bean Coffee.
Sorry, what is it called?
Wild Bean.
Okay, Wild Bean Coffee. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, coffee is actually, the fruit is actually a cherry, not a bean though.
Yeah. So
it aligns perfectly with my affinity towards Mother Nature as well. So even all my writings and everything, I'm inspired by Mother Nature. And so basically this initiative totally fits in with what I do. I get to spend a lot of time traveling to the plantation. So it's been quite a while after the current situation, what's happening.
You shuttle between Bangalore and the plantation?
That's right, I do that.
Where is that?
It's on the hills of Kodai.
Oh, okay.
Hills. Yes, that's where it is.
Tamil Nadu.
Oh, yeah, Tamil Nadu.
Not Karnataka. Okay.
So it's a nice place to very laid back, obviously.
Yeah.
Lap of Mother Nature. Wonderful for creativity as well and for writing. Getting into my
writing. I saw you publish. You self-publish also.
That's right. I was working in the IT space for more than 15 years. Started my career in the US, where I worked for companies like Entology, America Online. I've done even a project for Walt Disney World.
Oh, wow.
General Electric, few other companies as well, before taking a career break to spend more time with my children. And that's how I got into the flow of writing, or rather I should say I revisited my passion for writing.
Yeah, nice.
And
I had a very long career, 32 years in IT.
Oh, okay. So thanks to my children. They were very young toddlers then, 8 years ago. I thought let me give it a break and then I will get back to it again. Why not? But then once I started, reviving my passion for writing, there was no looking back.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you found something else that's going to keep you going.
But I was equally passionate about data architecture, my work earlier as well. And now writing has me in a spell.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I never took a break. So I had my parents lived with me, so I have one son who's grown up now, so I never had to worry too much about it.
Wonderful.
So we'll just give it a couple of more minutes. It's 11:58 now. And then anyways, it is supposed to be a sequential this thing. So we'll do it a couple of minutes past noon, and then we will start off.
Wonderful, sounds good.
Looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do tell us a little bit more about yourself too, Gauri.
So I grew up in Delhi.
Okay.
And I've been in Bangalore for the last 22 years, 24 years now. Oh my God, I forget time also. 24 years. I had, like I mentioned, a very long IT career. Started as a programmer and then went on to do all kinds of fun stuff. I did some real fun stuff like developing a command and control system for Indian Air Force and things like that. Then I moved into more strategic actions at the corporate level. So I became more or less like a change agent for companies. And I loved that. Like how I could shake people up and did that. Enjoyed it too much, traveled a lot, lived in a few other countries as part of it. Came back, and about 3 years back, I decided to stop working full time because it was becoming really too much. So now I'm a leadership coach. I have my own company, and I work with folks who are from mostly tech. Somehow that affinity happens, and mostly people from tech industry seem to reach out to me. So yeah, that's what I am.
That's an inspiring journey.
It's been a fun journey. I don't know what inspiring, but it has been a fun journey, and a lot of kind of exposures that one generally doesn't expect. So, and I was lucky in a way that my family never became a factor for me. For about 25 years, I was traveling pretty much every month. In between, I've lived in London, lived in US, sometimes alone, sometimes with family.
Talking of that, now I dream about my globe-trotting days.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's a different thing. Now I don't want to do it. Now, if somebody wants me to come to a client site, I say no. I don't even want to travel on Bangalore roads. Thankfully, now it is COVID and they don't expect me. But yeah, it's a different stage of life.
At least I'm really thankful for the technology that we
True.
are connected internationally in this
And
manner.
we are able to do something like this. Imagine, right? We are having 6 parallel tracks and so many speakers from so many different time zones and so much to share and so much to learn. It's amazing.
And to bring in all this amazing talent together on the same platform,
Yeah.
2 days, it's
Yeah.
phenomenal, truly.
Yeah, I know. There's so much work that has gone on in the background. Right? All right. So maybe we can start off.
Wonderful.
Is that okay? All right. So good morning and welcome to all of you who are in the audience. I'm actually not seeing many people in the audience. So maybe let's give it a few more minutes.
Actually, we can get started, Gauri. A lot of folks are on Facebook Live and on YouTube.
Okay, great. So let's do that then. Sure. And we will get in Sonia as in when she joins, right? She's the second speaker. So, all right. So, good morning and welcome to this session on igniting the creative engine within each of us, right? That's what you're going to talk about. And looking at your career path, I can imagine that there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that you can share. So I would like to welcome Raja Rajeshwari, who is our first speaker. And she is a writer, self-publishing consultant, coffee entrepreneur. And we were just chatting that she also had a 15-year-long career in IT industry before becoming this. And she has a brand called Wild Bean Coffee. I must try that. I'm not a coffee drinker generally, but I must try that sometime. She moved into this when she took a break from her IT career and discovered or rediscovered her passion for writing and other areas of interest, right? So without taking any more time from the audience, I would request you, Raja Rajeshwari, to please tell us what you have for us.
Sure, Gauri. And before getting started, I would like to quickly add that I write under the pen name of A.R. Sarah. Looking for me out there. And let's get started without further ado. So let's talk about igniting the creative engine within. So, how about inspiring, coaxing art from the heart? Shall we?
Mm.
Art in the form of written literary expressions. Well, you might wonder why talk about a topic so self indulgent when the world is reeling under so many tough challenges today. Well, art can not only soothe and ease the mind, but can change our perspective, calm that inner turmoil during
Mm.
these times of social distancing, precautionary measures, and unease. It can help unlock the door to a solitary pursuit that can plunge us into a state of serenity. And creative expressions can serve as an outlet for all those thoughts which are churning within you. How many of us have fond memories of certain childhood moments?
Mm.
Not just the scene, the emotions, the feelings, the actions, the antics, but the thoughts that drove those actions and the imagination, the intense curiosity, being able to view the world from a completely different perspective and a multicolored lens. A time when listening to the whims of the heart was the norm rather than the exception.
Mm.
Sitting on the branch of a tree to read books, or making patterns, or writing on the sand, collecting seashells, watching the stars and the moon, doodling, going for a ride on a swing, skating, gazing at the clouds, observing the greenery. Everything was a experience, a sensory experience that engaged the senses of sight, touch, hearing, sound, smell, feeling. And it
Mm.
filled our days with wonder, curiosity, learning, and joy. Remember? Well, it was a time when imagination was at its peak, free flowing. And imagination, such as that, is the prerequisite to creativity. While the childhood years were fleeting, childlike imagination lies within, still intact. Yes, it's still in there. Though more mellowed down and bound by the cares and all those responsibilities of our adult world. So, time to fuel that imagination and make it as vibrant as possible. How to get started? Time is certainly of essence. So, a sacred time to set apart when we can leave behind the incessant adult worries, endless daily thoughts. A time to daydream, or to read, or to take a leisurely walk through the park, or just even inside your room, or sip a cup of steaming hot coffee or tea uninterrupted. Yes, set aside a time, even a few minutes when you're not accountable to anyone, even to yourself. Begin with observing. It can be a butterfly flapping its wings, or the veined patterns on a leaf, the curling vine, the colors of sunset and sunrise, the movement of a fan inside your room, the flutter of the curtains, the reflections and shadows at play on a moonlit night. Pick up a stone, touch it, feel the texture. Place your ears against the bark of a tree and listen. Try to identify the smells carried by the breeze. Invoke memories of those rainy days. Taste the raindrops tumbling down from the sky. And don't hesitate to delve within the world inside you as well. Listening to your own breathing, the drumming of your heartbeat, the roar of your blood flowing within, the mighty rumble of your stomach. Just surrender to the moment. Let the emotions and the feelings surge, and they will. Then, when the thoughts flow in a rush, and they surely will, record them on a piece of paper, on your phone, on your laptop, or an audio recorder on your phone. Put technology to good use and don't hold back. Just go ahead, express. Now that you have unlocked the portal to the creative realm, leverage and apply it in your writing, but just with a touch of discipline. A story, a, a personal narrative, a poem, a verse, anything might emerge. Just expand on the moment, grow it into a scene, explore different outcomes, allow your writing to take shape. And as I said, anything might emerge. It could be a story, a poem, a verse. Now, next, go ahead to extend it further. Pick a muse if you can. Yes, a creative muse. It can be an oddly shaped cloud in the sky. It could be a tree that you see outside, a person from the past or the present or the future, or anything or anyone your imagination pulls up when you think of a muse. Next, you step into the skin of your imaginary muse. You become the muse. And then you imagine and you experience the world and you see the world through the eyes and the perspective of your imaginary muse. Take a moment there. Now step out and observe the muse as an outsider. Try simulating different situations and get back to expressing, stretching your imagination in words. There might be, at this point, inner voices that tell you to stop, question you about what are you doing, doubt you, ridicule your imagination. But please pay no heed, toss them aside, bringing your mind's focus back to your free flow of thoughts. And if you can't shake off that inner critic, those inner voices, then you can try this. Close your eyes. Yes, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Inhale, hold your breath for a few counts. Now exhale. This can help clear your head and shrug off those pesky inner voices of dissent. Now, that being said, do stay open to learning continuously and upgrading your knowledge and awareness across diverse topics, exploring. You see, imagination has to be constantly fed and fueled to keep your creative engine well oiled and running. Yes, creativity is to be cajoled thus and not forced, not ever. And nurture it like you would a seed, a tender sapling, nourishing it with patience and care and utmost tenderness. Creativity, once triggered, can take the shape of anything that you want it to and open up your imagination to countless possibilities and marvelous realms, leading you to an endless reservoir, a stream of ideas and stories, something you can tap into, dip your feet into, or immerse yourself in as deep as you choose. Once you're on a creative high, you can pull out stories, ideas seemingly from thin air. Yes, and if you feel the urge to draw, bake, craft, paint, or any other creative endeavor other than to write, that is okay too. Just go ahead and indulge. And there, you're all set. Now, quickly pinpoint a few uh, key things that we went about just now, just to quickly summarize before we bring this to a closure. Set aside, as I said, set aside some sacred time daily for nourishing and nurturing that creative essence within you. Observe, experience with your senses, all your senses. Listen, read extensively across genres. Get inspired, keep learning, exploring, put technology to good use, and importantly, evolve your own distinct style of expression. Each writer or an artist has his or her own inner style of expression as unique as a thumbprint. So it's very important to be true and stay true to your own creative voice. Express yourself from the heart, unhindered by any inner critic. And after the flow of thought ends and you have captured it in words, only then you begin reviewing and self editing what you have expressed or written. And of course, stay open to feedback and learning. And remember, anytime you hear those inner pesky voices questioning you, doubting you, remember the breathing to clear any claimer and reset your state of mind. I do hope you found what I shared today useful. What I shared with you is from my personal experience, something that has helped me write over 10 books and keep blogging. You can, of course, look up my profile on this platform and reach out to me if you have any questions. And thanks to Women Economic Forum for this amazing opportunity to share my thoughts on this uplifting platform.
Wow, Rajeshri, that was like reading a poetry book. The way you speak, the way the words flow out of you, it's so amazing. Just listening to it was like, listening to a book. So I'm curious if you don't mind, we could chat for some more time. Okay, great. Sounds good. So I'm curious as to you. You earlier when we were talking, you mentioned that you kind of reawakened this interest in writing. So can you talk about that a little bit more? When did it start actually? And then I know that it kind of got suppressed with life, and then you reawakened it.
Yes. So it was fortunate for me. Like as I was growing up, both my parents are excellent storytellers.
Ah.
While my dad would make up all these imaginary stories to tell me, very spontaneous, my mother
Mm,
would keep repeating the same certain stories with small changes here and there,
mm,
both from the Indian folklore as well as all those fairy tales.
mm,
And I think that was that initial seed that was planted within me, which got me on that path of dreaming, I should say, daydreaming, which I think is a prerequisite to creativity and
mm,
get tapping into that creative space. And uh, and I started doodling all those stories which were running in my head even before I could start writing in complete sentences. And then when
mm.
I started, when I was able to write in complete sentences, I used to keep scribbling, and I used to tell stories to my classmates.
Wow. So it started in school.
It started in school in India.
Nice.
And yeah, there were times I got admonished as well for distracting the class.
Right. I
And then
can imagine that.
from there, and then
Mm,
got to back then. Now we have this blog which we share with the world, even the journaling that we are open to sharing with the world. Back then, we used to have these diaries and we used to have these journals which we used to keep writing on. So I
mm.
used to keep doing that while I was in school and later in college. And I used to leave it open for whoever is interested in coming and reading and taking a look. So it was like a physical blog.
That's different from what other people generally keep their journals very secretive or at least private.
Yeah. And then, if any friends or if there were any requests to write on a certain topic, anyone gave me a prompt, I would be happy to oblige and write then and there, write something for them and give it.
Right.
And then, of course, I used to keep making up all these stories in my head and try to express them in words. And certain things are indescribable. Sometimes I feel it's difficult to express certain things in words verbally, but then it's very comfortable when you're articulating it in written form.
Mm,
And it's supposed to be a very uh, solitary endeavor, uh,
mm.
writing. But at the same time, when I'm writing a story, when there are so many characters in my head, it's anything but lonely.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes these
So you are
characters,
in their world, right?
yes. And
Very
of course,
nice.
I'm an avid reader too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Endlessly keep reading.
So when did you publish your first book?
So I published my first book back in 2012. So
Okay.
that's when I had just taken a break, a career
Mm,
break. And then for 1 year till 2013, I was doing some IT consulting as well, freelancing. But then 2012 is when I took the clean break from my full day job. And within a month, it was like I had already rediscovered that spark, and I was writing.
oh,
And then my kids, especially my son, he's an older one. He basically came up to me and asked, "You're writing stories and read out to me." And I used to keep bouncing ideas off him,
mm.
and and then he
So
was
you
like,
write children's books?
I
Is
write
that?
children's books. I started writing children's books, but I do write for adults as well. So I'm most comfortable writing for children and mostly where the characters are animals from the animal world, nature. So in my book, even trees are sentient beings. Obviously, it's very obvious who can
Mm,
interact. And the first four of my books revolved around this fictional forest of fantasy called Pachehara,
mm.
which is a made-up name. And
Nice. I mean, I should read some of your books. I've not read them so far. So, is there any other creativity or creative means to express yourself that you use?
I'm sorry.
Is there any other medium, creative medium that you use?
I keep scribbling, drawing, but then that's a medium I haven't really explored much so far. I keep dabbling in that, but it's like words completely have me spellbound. And more recently, I have to mention, after I got associated with the All Ladies League, the synergies, the amazing talent here. When I became part of the All Ladies League Readers and Writers Karnataka chapter, what we notice is when all of us are on the same creative plane, that is like a lot of ideas and thoughts and stories pouring in. So we decided to do an anthology. It was almost like a culmination of a literary dream for us. So it was like finally a team of 7 ladies, 5 writers, an editor, and renowned international artist who got together. And of course, we were fueled by the All Ladies League members' energies, all of us, all of
phenomenal, right?
Yeah, pushing us along. And we were able to bring out this book called Thus She Spake, Women in Mythology. It was published last year.
Okay.
5 different stories from women in mythology. It was like a creative telling.
So who are all the characters? You said women in Indian mythology?
Indian.
Or global?
Indian mythology. But we were thinking like, let's take it forward. Let's see how it flows. Idea was to also bring in global mythology, of course. But of course, I think the comfort factor also plays into it when you start writing. So the characters in this were Radha, and the story was written by our own Dr. Suchitra Kaul Mishra. And we have a story by Sandhya Kunjur that was on Surpanaka.
Okay.
And Anu Krishna, she penned a story about Uruvi, Karna's wife.
Right.
And Chaya, Dr. Chaya Nair, she penned a story about Gandhari, the Blind Queen. And I penned a story about pretty much stretched my imagination quite a bit because there's not much written about her in mythologies except some mention in the Puranas about Shiva's daughter. Shiva's daughter by the name of Ashoka Sundari.
Okay.
Most of it is made up though.
But it's lovely. I mean, most of these women are powerful characters, but they have very short mention in our, the whole mythological stories. They come and go away, and then they're not visible for very long periods of time in the flow of the story. So that's amazing that you all picked up those.
Pretty marginalized. So, and we use this kind of a creative technique to inspire them. We brought the team together. And then, of course, the renowned artist was Bharati Sagar. You might have heard of her. She's also our All Ladies League sister. And the editor is Chaya Dronam Raju.
Oh, okay.
And she came up with the idea for the name, Thus She Spake.
Yeah, I saw it along the background, yeah.
And all these stories are told from the perspective of the characters.
Okay, protagonist.
Yeah. So in this case, the technique we used to get into that creative flow and write is because all of us have a hectic schedule and so many distractions, daily adulthood responsibilities and all. So to be able to get into that creative frame of mind and get into that mystical realm, the technique that we used that I had suggested was, let's get into the skin of our muses. So initially we didn't write anything for the first few days or even weeks, where the idea was taking some time out of the day where we just imagine ourselves as that particular character, and we use that as a strong anchor for writing.
So, but it would have involved a fair amount of research, I guess, because these are characters who are not very visible.
Absolutely. So that that week initially, even before we start writing, before we put a word down on paper or on the laptop, the initial thing is to just let the creativity flow, and obviously research is a part of it. And I said you have to be in a continuous state of learning, because all that is what feeds into your imagination, feeds into your creativity. Because as someone in that space, I don't think the learning ever stops.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and keep exploring, keep reading across, and now uh, uh, with what we have, like pretty much the entire world is connected, and so much information online as well.
Hmm. Very nice. I'm inspired to go and buy that book now.
You should.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you very much, Rajeshwari. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Are there any last words that you would like to say to our listeners?
Uh, uh, of course, as I said, I think one of the most important things in terms of keeping that creativity flowing, keeping that creative engine well oiled, is starts with setting aside some sacred time daily for yourself. That's most important,
Hmm.
and the rest will
Very important.
automatically
Very important.
flow in. And also a quick request to also check out my book Lorcam's Quest.
Yeah,
It's about a
absolutely.
neurodiverse child.
Okay. Yeah, now I am very inspired, especially this Does She Speak? I'm very, very curious because I'm very weak on Indian mythology. But I'll be honest to admit that. But these are names that are familiar, but we hardly know anything beyond, she is so and so is mother, so and so's daughter. And there the story ends mostly about these people. And maybe there's one powerful incident where they show up in the long stories, right? So I'm very
Looking
curious.
forward to your feedback.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gauri.
So thank you, Rajeshwari. Thank you for
I
taking
will.
the
Thank
time
you.
out.
I
I'm
think I'll
sure
take leave
people
now.
have taken a lot of ideas away from taken through this conversation. Now, from the WEF perspective, for all your time contributions and your achievements in life, we would like to award you with the iconic woman creating a better world for all. So this award you will get in e-form on an email very soon. So congratulations and a big hand to you.
Again, very
It's been
honored to be
great
here.
meeting with you, and I look forward to connecting with you again. Thank you so
Definitely,
much.
Gauri. Hope I can leave now.
Yes, thank you so much.
Hello, am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Is the moderator joining or should we start off?
I don't know.
Good afternoon, Tanya Singh and Disha Mishra.
Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon.
How are you girls doing?
We're doing great. Really happy to be here.
Apologies. The original host could not log in due to technical glitch. So
Right.
I'm so happy to be backing up for her to meet both of you girls.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Where are you from?
Ma'am, I'm from Bangalore. And
Okay,
Tanya
and
is-
you?
yeah.
Me
You're
as well,
Tanya.
ma'am. Yes.
Bangalore.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm also from Bangalore. Great. So actually, you people have chosen a wonderful topic, which is so relevant in today's time. How do you want to go about this? You want to talk one after the other, or we can just have a discussion, chilled out, quirky, at the same time sending the message across to the world? How do you want it?
Ma'am, so we've planned across on going one after the other. So Tanya will be going
Fair
first,
enough.
followed by me. Yeah.
Over to you, Tanya. We don't want to waste any more time on this.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, Lakshmi ma'am. I'd just like to say that I'm extremely honored that I've been given the opportunity to speak on such an important topic. And starting off, I'd like to say that every one of us is a sexual being.
Yes.
And sex and sexuality are a part of our biology. It's very important to understand every aspect of it. Many of us can't differentiate between sex and sexuality, and we need to understand that there's a difference between the two. Sexuality is a much broader term and includes much more than just the act of sex. Sex education is not just the learning about the human reproductive system and sexual activity. It includes gender identities, sexual orientations, intimate relationships, contraceptions, STIs, consent, reproductive rights, responsibilities. So it is a very vast topic, and it's important for adolescents to to understand this, to make informed, positive, and safe choices about their relationships and sexual activity they indulge in. Since the topic is youth's perspective about sex education, I sought some of my friends' opinions about sex ed classes we've had in the past, or anything close to it for that matter. And the responses were unanimous: weird, gross, uncomfortable, etc. This is
because it's not being spoken, it's not being discussed.
there are many reasons behind
Yeah.
it. One of them is because it's not like sex education is not imparted the way it should be. There's quite a lapse in the sex ed system, even in the most well-known schools of our country. And most of my friends went to top public schools in Bangalore, as well as me. And our sex ed class situation has been quite similar. We all attended a sex ed workshop in 11th grade that just happened once throughout the entirety of high school. And we were shown blurred out, jarring images of genitals to show us what could happen if we had unprotected sex. And that's about it. Nothing else was discussed. And we all also went to co-ed schools where teachers had issues when boys and girls interacted with each other in corridors. So really, there is no sex education curriculum at all. And teachers aren't trained to take up these classes either, because they themselves are so uncomfortable even mentioning
Correct.
it.
Yes.
So it's pretty much the same as home as well too, because parents are almost always tight-lipped about it. Then what is the way out? How can adults like parents, teachers, and other responsible adults like doctors and counselors make sure that
Correct.
this vast topic is addressed?
True.
So since the home is the first place where the child learns everything, I feel like parents should initiate sex ed in an age appropriate manner, because they can see how the child is growing and they know what to introduce when.
Very true.
But that's the ideal situation. In the reality, parents don't even know how to approach the topic. So
A message to parents of young
yeah,
children.
Yeah, so I think it's important for schools to conduct classes for parents actually. And I'm sure parents won't be hesitant to go to these classes if responsible and knowledgeable people teach them, like doctors and pediatricians.
Very true.
And yeah, and teachers are also like a huge influence on a child's life, especially during a younger age, because whatever the teacher says is gospel truth to the
Truth.
child.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so teachers should be trained to teach sex and sexuality education in schools without feeling uncomfortable about it. I also talked to a bunch of school counselors and health professionals who work in school infirmaries, and they agree that schools should have really comprehensive sex ed curriculums. But I think there just seems to be some sort of gap in communication because no one's taking the first step to reform sex ed. There is no doubt that there's a lot of stigma surrounding it because a lot of my friends' parents think that the idea of a sex ed class is quite perverse still. So, one school counselor I talked to said this. She said, children are often left at the uncivilized care of the internet to find information for themselves. It's better if we provide this knowledge to them ourselves. And I agree, our sex ed shouldn't come from the internet and equally uninformed peers. This will just lead to more misinformation. And I know our
That's the
parents,
challenge of the days.
yeah, a lot of misinformation. And
Yes.
I know
Or too
our,
much information.
yeah, yeah.
We
And
can't, at that age, I think it's very difficult to be selective,
yeah. Yeah,
Go
it
ahead,
is
go ahead.
because we're exposed to so much. And our parents and teachers think we figure out stuff for ourselves and, eventually know everything. But the reality is that most of us are quite uninformed about many aspects. Um, to this day, there falls STI outbreaks in colleges and
Correct.
universities.
Correct.
Why I say false is because most of us think STIs are airborne and it can be contracted through like physical
Correct.
contact.
Yes.
This sort of misinformation regarding STIs is extremely prevalent amongst the youth, and it's also part of university culture to shame each other for contracting these
Yes.
diseases. Last year in college, a box of condoms was kept in our hostel's common room, and my friend thought she'd contract an STI just by touching the packet. So clearly, there's too much misinformation, and this just leads to so much confusion and panic unnecessarily. And speaking of confusion and panic, puberty. Puberty is quite an isolating time for teenagers, and we do tend to feel quite alone and almost never have.
It is a lonely period in one's life.
Yeah, because so much is happening, our bodies change, and I feel like there's so much guilt attached
Yes.
to
We, we are actually, we means what? Are young teenagers searching for identity at that stage.
Yeah.
It's such a crucial stage in the development of a human being.
Yeah. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't know, so many things regarding like when our bodies change, we feel like exploring our changing bodies and getting in touch with our sexuality.
Wonderful.
But for whatever
Tanya,
reason,
I think I'll have to now request Disha to come in.
Okay.
Because we are running short of time. I think we need to give her.
Okay.
I would like to let you know, both of you, in case there has been slight delay from our end because the host couldn't come in, we will have a session again with you all on this.
Okay.
All right.
If possible today, else
Sure.
we'll slot it for some other time.
Sure.
Okay.
It's a promise from Women Economic Forum. Go ahead, Disha.
Yes. So first of all, thank you to everyone present here for watching, and thanks to the Women Economic Forum for providing this platform and opportunity to speak in front of all of you all.
It's a
A very good
pleasure.
afternoon to everybody present here. Let me just start by sharing an incident with all of you. When I was in 8th grade, I was introduced to the chapter of reproduction in school. When my teacher started explaining, she was extremely uncomfortable. She explained about the changes in our body and then asked us to read through the rest of the chapter ourselves, and we could get back to her if we had any doubts. but she never cleared any of it. Same was the case with my parents. They never answered any of my questions. What happens when these questions are left unanswered? Parents and teachers think that they've suppressed the topic for the time being, but in reality, the curiosity of teenagers keeps rising. What do? We learn about sex from friends, books, magazines, from films, and now increasingly the internet. And not from adults who deeply care about us and who are responsible for our physical, psychological, and social development. For
Maybe
us,
emotional and spiritual development also. It's so
very right, very right.
Interconnected. Yeah.
So, for us teenagers to make informed and responsible decisions about our relationships and sexual health, we really need a healthy sexual development to be addressed in the home and classroom. And currently, really, neither of them are happening. So, if sex education plays such an important role in shaping a person's life, why is it still considered a major taboo across the world? What are the myths that are keeping parents and teachers from providing comprehensive sex education? Myth number one: every parent just naturally assumes nothing will happen to my kid. My daughter would never get pregnant. My child would never have sex without a condom. My son would never be sexually aggressive with a partner. Well, reality is all of us teenagers are capable of making poor decisions when it comes to relationships and sexual health because we were never provided with the right education in the first place. Myth number two, the biggest myth: by talking, you will get the idea in our heads. Now, a lot of parents and teachers feel it's unnecessary because they feel if they talk about this, it's going to affect us and they'll think we're condoning it, and it really worries them. 3 decades of robust social science research tells us that the more parents talk to their children, the better we do. Myth number three: parental influence cannot compete. All teenagers say this. It's the parents who are most influenced by the decisions we make about sex. But parents, they consistently underestimate their influence and overestimate the influence of friends and media. All of us teenagers agree when we say this. Our decisions are influenced by our parents. And if we were able to have open and honest conversations with them, it would be easier for us to delay sexual activity, and it would be easier to prevent unintended pregnancies and sexually transmitted infections. Now, if you all think sex is too extreme of a topic to talk about, let me tell you, adults find it disgusting and gross to even teach us about the changes in our body. The biggest example being menstruation. It's considered a taboo. I mean, as if it's not biological, What's worse is that because it's not talked about in the open, there is a lot of misinformation about this topic, which ultimately leads to misinformation about sex. There is an absolute lack of knowledge in the rural areas. And believe me, educated parents around us also spread misinformation. A 12-year-old girl had come up to my mentor, who is a counselor, and she thought she was pregnant. How did she think so? Because...
No, I would like to come in here at this point.
Right.
Maybe, I'm not too sure if there is a divide between rural and urban India. See, the problem could be in both the sections of the geography. In fact, in rural India, if we dig deeper, womanhood is celebrated at one level. When a girl attains puberty,
correct, yes,
it's a celebration of attaining womanhood. So the men in the families, they're also in the knowledge that this has happened. And it's a very, very natural phenomena.
Correct.
There's no taboos. The
thing about it is, but what I feel is
this. Right. Whereas in urban India, we look down upon these events, these celebrations, and we think it's, when we say village, particularly with the younger generation, because I have my own children, my sons, who are not teenagers anymore, but don't behave like a villager.
Right.
Gauti. These are all such preconceived notions,
That's very
I'm
true.
not too sure if it's true. So there is a huge issue with the urban India also.
That's very
Because
true.
we are neither rooted in our own culture, nor we adapting cultures which have changed.
Exactly.
The flower generations of the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
Different, but
the
today's
youngsters,
different.
yeah, even the youngsters aren't aware of it, which I was just saying. A 12-year-old girl came up to my mentor thinking she was pregnant because a friend of hers told that, if you don't get your periods for a while, you're going to get pregnant. And added to that, she thought she was surely pregnant because a boy had kissed her. My friend's mother was infuriated when she came to know that menstruation is being taught in school. The teachers call it the female process because they really shy away from it. But we all have to understand that this causes major health problems, and all at the cost of lack of knowledge. That's not accepted.
Not just, I would say, not just menstruation. Even the young
Yeah.
boys who are turning into adults,
That's very
they
true.
have a huge set of problems.
Yeah,
And on the emotional front, we are lucky to be women. We are one notch more emotionally sound than the male species, actually. So
Right.
we have to address this.
exactly.
Sex agnostic,
Yeah, address both the situations.
gender agnostic.
Yeah. And that's what. So, one thing we teenagers don't understand is okay, even if there is some sort of teaching, why are the genders separated in school? I mean, ultimately, all of us are going to live together, and it only makes sense if we are taught about our bodies and the bodies of the opposite gender, because we're going to live with each other. We have to understand each other's emotions. And
It's a beautiful symbiotic relationship with
exactly
what men and women
Yeah.
have. I
And
think
because
social
this-
conditionings
Yeah.
needs to be addressed. You guys are the torch bearers of this change.
That's so true.
We need to make the change. It's your
Yeah.
generation, which is
True.
you have to. Unfortunately, the responsibility lies on your shoulders.
Yeah, I think it lies
we
on
need
all
to
of
make
our
the
shoulders
effort
because
to
we
enable you
don't know the
guys.
gravity of the situation.
Yes.
Because of the lack of all of this, teenagers, what do? They resort to unsafe methods and to kill their curiosity. One of the biggest method being pornography, because they're exposed to different kinds of porn. They
Correct.
learn wrong things like violence and are not even aware of the concept of consent.
Very
Because
true.
they're not aware of this concept, a lot of teenagers are sexually abused. And if a teenager is raped and by another teenager who is older to him or her, society suddenly becomes extremely depressed and goes, oh my God, how could this happen? Think about it. How couldn't it happen?
Yes.
We weren't provided with the right education skill set to manage and make the right decision. So it sucks for the victim and the perpetrator, because most of the times the perpetrator doesn't even know that he or she is the perpetrator, because what they see according to them is right, and that's how they go about it. And this gives a major boost to rape culture, right? And
Disha, I think you have actually opened out a very different set of solutions. Why aren't we discussing how to prevent these things?
right,
Why
I will
aren't
just
we
get into that.
discussing conditioning the society, reconditioning the society?
Right. So I was
Not
just
only through education from schools, you said parental, the entire social gamut.
That's correct. Yeah.
Why aren't we making the films, the media, the
Yes, yeah.
entertainment media should look beyond profits.
Thing is, what
The
I feel
messaging is important.
Yes.
So it's a collective responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think Tanya may have something to add to this.
Yeah, I would just like to end by saying what
Sure.
I feel that all of us should do. So before coming onto this platform, all of us were talking to our set of friends and we asked, what would you want the parents and teachers out there to know? My friend said, it would be really great, if parents gave 10% of the attention they give to our marks to just making sure we know just more than the basic definition of sex. And the idea is to come together and build and help make a strong foundation so that the taboo goes away. Thing is, parents are really uncomfortable to talk to their children about sex, and they think if they have to talk about sex, they'll have to talk about intercourse and how it's done. Well,
Correct.
hopefully someday we'll get sexuality educators to do that. But what we want from parents are basic things, like what would you want my relationship to be like? When do you think it's appropriate? When do you think it's appropriate for me to become sexually active? What are the guys or girls I should be seeking? Stuff like that should come up. And we should just be able to have an open conversation about our sex and sexuality. And I feel the parents then can come out too, because it's difficult for them also to have these conversations. So I feel it should be done from a very young age so that the taboo goes away. And by a young age, what I mean is about from 4 to 5 years old children also should get to know about these things. Simple things. What is a good touch? What is a bad touch? What are the parts of your body that are private? How to comfortably say no. And this will not make them susceptible to abuse at home and outside. So I would just like to ask all of you parents and teachers out there to imagine yourselves as 17-year-olds who went through that phase, not knowing anything at all. Would you want your children to go through the same phase? I would just like to end by saying, if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Thank you.
Wonderfully concluded. And on behalf of WEF, I would say that we will take this question of yours forward. We will take this message of yours forward so that we try to create an environment where these things can be discussed. It's a promise from me, and I'm going to get in touch with both of you offline.
Sure,
probably
ma'am,
next
that means a
week
lot.
once we are. And may I request Tanya to give a opening or a closing statement from your side. Such powerful statements you girls have just made.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I just want to touch on a few points. Like you mentioned earlier,
You have about 30 seconds to do this, and then I need to announce your awards.
Okay, 30 seconds, right. Okay, so I just want to make a quick appeal of sorts. To the education board, instead of showing us scary images of genitals in hopes that we won't have sex at all, just teach us how to practice safe sex. And parents, please have open discussions with us and don't expect us to solve this mystery of sorts. Shouldn't be a
Correct.
mystery to begin with. It should be an open discussion. I wish I could make a few more points, but we don't have the time. So I was hoping if we could have another session because there's so much to
Right.
cover.
We will have another session. I just checked the schedule, but not in this form on this platform. We'll take it offline in about a week's time because
Sure.
this needs a lot of time.
Yep,
Yeah,
agreed.
This session is where you have made your footprints. You have made yourself heard to the world, and this is a very, very, would say it's a very intense issue we need to address.
Yep.
And this is a
Yeah.
powerful platform where it has started. We
Yeah,
need to take it through the journey. So before we actually close the meeting for the session, WEF is extremely happy to award both of you the Young Achievers Award. And this award will to Tanya Singh and Disha Mishra, right?
Yeah.
So this will reach you in about a week's time as a soft copy.
Yeah.
You can share it on your social media. You can frame it. You can put it in your bedrooms, your living rooms, in your schools. And we will also send a letter to your institutions. Are you girls in school or college?
I'm
So
in college.
Okay.
So I have
Disha just got done with school.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah,
you?
I just appeared for my 12th board exam and I just got done with it. Yeah.
Wonderful. We're going to take all your coordinates and we're going to send a letter to your institution about the beautiful conversations both of you had worked upon and shared with all of us here. Impressive with you guys as young leaders. I'm not worried about sexual education and, change of the mindset of your generation. You are the future. So
Hopefully we all can work together and
we
Yeah.
have to work together.
It's a collaborative effort between, parents, teachers, and young adults, and come up with something that all of us are involved in so that we understand the system and working better.
Will do. We are going to take this forward next week. Give me
Sure.
a day's time.
Yeah,
I
sure.
will be a little more free to connect with y'all. And since we are still in a lockdown scenario, you're not
True.
attending regular classes, we could work on this.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, young
Thank you.
ladies, beautiful
you.
ladies, and loads of good luck.
Thank
to
you so much.
Your
Bye-bye.
life, you evolving as great human beings, and to the profession that you're going to choose.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, ma'am. Thank
See you
you.
all, and my name is Lakshmi Shankar.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye. Take care.
Love you, girls.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi, ma'am. Bye.
Loads of luck. Bye-bye.